Angelica Toy for Rebel News. A couple of students from Mount Royal University here in Calgary, Alberta, came to us with concern for a syllabus from one of their general education classes. Now, the content of this course seems to be directly aimed at attacking conservative values and figures with motivation to push radical wokeism on the students. This type of material, by its nature, is harboring hate towards those who advocate for freedom and conservatism. On Mount Royal's website, they mention that Mount Royal must be an equitable, diverse, inclusive, and safe place for staff, students, and faculty alike. The class content that I'm about to show you definitely does not promote inclusivity nor creates a safe space for students with different political opinions. Let's just start off by reading some of the weekly assigned topics and readings. So, their midterm test is within the context of how right-wing extremists use social media to lure followers. Then we have the rise of far-right, fascist entryism online, Jordan Peterson, Ben Shapiro, Alex Jones, Joe Rogan, and with that is the assigned reading, Why Jordan Peterson is Always Wrong. Then we have stuff like neoliberalism and the alt-right and intellectual dark web, the Great Replacement, and other far-right conspiracy theories. Then there's this one, January 6th, the Ottawa Truck Convoy, fascist rehearsals. And then this one really caught my eye. It says, fascism is as Canadian as the maple leaf. Let me read that again. Fascism is as Canadian as the maple leaf. Now, beyond the outrageous comparison of the Canadian maple leaf, the Canadian flag, to a symbol of fascism, the entire article seems to be building on the idea that conservatives and those who value freedom are something that needs to be desperately eradicated of. With that, let me just read you some of the stuff that I highlighted. This part says, some of the most outspoken critics of lockdowns and vaccine mandates have been pretty bourgeois capitalists such as restaurant owners, gym operators, and farmers who systemically violated the health and safety of their migrant workers. During the pandemic's second wave, the most notable, and Nazi-supported, attempt to build a campaign against business restrictions in the Toronto area was led by the owner of the restaurant Adamson Barbecue. During the third wave, it was a gym operator. So, Adam Skelly, I'm sure most of you know who Adam Skelly is, but if you don't, he was a restaurant owner in Ontario, and his business was shut down by the government after he refused to comply with COVID mandates. This is simply a man who said no to the government because he felt that they were overreaching. He felt that his human rights are being violated. And now he's being compared to a fascist, a simple business owner who just civilly stood up to the government and said no to them breaking the law, them stepping all over his Charter of Rights and Freedoms. And to continue reading here, it says, we can detect here an echo of classical fascism constituency witnessed in Germany and Italy early in the 20th century. Small business owners, rural landowners, managers, professionals, and ex-military and military members. You know, it truly seems like those who like to spit out the word Nazi or fascist don't really know what it means. You know what? Let me just read you the definition of a fascist. A fascist is someone who supports and promotes fascism, a system of government led by a dictator who typically rules by forcefully and often violently suppressing opposition and criticism, controlling all industry and commerce, and promoting nationalism and often racism. Adam Skelly was actually, it seems like, a victim of fascism, because he was standing up to a government that he potentially felt was more of a dictatorship in some sense, and he was then forcefully and often violated and suppressed of his opinions, of his views.
Small business! Small business! Small business! Small business! Get back! Shame on you!
Another part of this article says that the freedom that the farmers at the convoy protests are defending is the freedom to let their migrant workers get sick and die. For some of its adherents, this politics takes on a violent and authoritarian complexion, a spirit of revenge against those movements and communities that they see as a threat to their fragile privileges and to the traditional values and the sense of nation that offer them a consolation in the face of social, political, and economic change they can do nothing to stop. Let me just read you that first part again. It says that the freedom that the farmers at the convoy protests are defending is the freedom to let their migrant workers get sick and die. So, these farmers that participated in the freedom convoy and freedom rallies in general, they were there to fight for their ability to work, to be able to put food on their tables, to feed their families, because the government was threatening to take their livelihoods away. So they had nothing to lose because they had been put in a position where the government was about to take everything away from them. They went out there to fight for their ability to survive, not for their migrant workers to get sick and die. That's quite ridiculous. There's honestly no logic in that whatsoever. So this next part here, it makes me giggle a little bit because our Prime Minister Justin Trudeau likes to say these exact same things. So let's read this. As the far right develops further, its street-based politics will become even more important to it, as will violence as an ideological and tactical disposition. This disposition is what separates fascists from the right more generally, not the racism, xenophobia, anti-Semitism, nationalism, lust for empire, and antipathy to workers and the oppressed, not even a desire for authoritarian state power, which they share with the liberal tradition, but a militant commitment to building a mass straight-based movement that operates through violence. Why don't we take a quick look at this violence?
Over the past few days, Canadians were shocked and frankly disgusted by the behavior displayed by some people protesting in our nation's capital. Hate can never be the answer. I want to be very clear. We are not intimidated by those who hurl insults and abuse at small business workers and steal food from the homeless. We won't give in to those who fly racist flags. We won't cave to those who engage in vandalism or dishonor the memory of our veterans.
Well, folks, I am so sorry to break it to you, but now singing, dancing, and loving your fellow Canadians is now a punishable crime, and it must be stopped immediately. Oh, and hot tubs and bouncy castles, those are banned too.
I mean, I was just aghast this weekend that, there's a bouncy castle and there's a hot tub. David, I wanted to go up there and poke that hot tub myself and let the water flow out of it and unplug that damn bouncy castle, because it's just a symbol of the frustration that's gone on for 19 days in the capital. So yes, we are making changes to do everything that we can do to end this illegal occupation of our city.
Is this even reality? All right, it says that the far right is now simply too big to be fought by fiercely committed but small bands of anti-fascists. It will not be stopped without great numbers on our side, and the fascist current within it will definitely grow in a new period of struggle that the convoy movement has inaugurated. Then it goes on to say, deplatforming by physically confronting the far right and fascists is an important tactic, but it is not in of itself a strategy for defeating them. We must be clear that the far right cannot be defeated by parliamentary denunciations or placated with state concessions, but also that the most effective way to free public space of its odious presence is to build a broad movement able to retake the streets. It's almost promoting violence in a way, does it not? I mean, they're saying deplatforming by physically confronting the far right and fascists is an important tactic. So essentially, they're teaching students to physically confront those who they disagree with at a school. A school is teaching them this. Further on, it goes to say that in Ottawa, in which more than 1,000 counter-protesters shut down a section of the convoy and sent it home without its flags and jerry cans, offers an inspiring model to the kinds of actions that we need. But to sustain such energy in the long run as the far right and fascists grow in power necessarily means continuing to draw in wider layers of people that are currently involved in the movement left including those who may not be yet convinced of the need for direct confrontation. Again, they are promoting direct confrontation and physical confrontation. What happens when a student learns this information and then goes out into the hallways at school or into the world? What happens when they see somebody wearing a Canadian flag on their shirt, or a shirt that says something like Justin Castro or freedom isn't free? Are they going to physically confront this person now? Direct confrontation? Are these people in the halls they might see with this merch, this clothes, are they at risk now of being harassed or even at worst actually assaulted? Because this isn't promoting any kind of tolerance like the left likes to say they promote. Instead, it seems like it is promoting actual violence. And this is at a school. Once again, let me remind you what's on Mount Royal's website. Mount Royal must be an equitable, diverse, and inclusive and safe place for staff, students, and faculty alike. Does that sound like it's promoting safety or inclusivity for the students? This course also talks about the Nazi flags that were spotted at the Ottawa trucker convoy back in January. An investigation was conducted by CSIS, the Canadian Intelligence Service Agency, and they posted a memo saying that during the Freedom Convoy, those with Nazi symbolism were not representative of protesters who gathered in Ottawa last winter. Now, to wonder, will the school discuss these new findings and investigations with the students, or will it continue to promote a false idea of what happened in Ottawa? Additionally, an independent commission of inquiry is investigating Trudeau's use of the Emergencies Act, a form of martial law he deployed to counter the peaceful protesters in Ottawa and across the country. In a new and released document from Public Safety Canada, it was confirmed that protesters were peaceful and cooperative with police, that no violence took place, and disruption to government activities was minor. I really wonder, I really do, if this professor, if the school will change the class content based on these new findings, which obviously we knew were true, but in this new day and age, it seems like students are just being taught what to think and not how to think.
I reached out to Mount Royal to get an understanding around their choice of material, and they provided me with the following statement. Mount Royal is a place for the debate of opinions and ideologies, for free speech and the safe and respectful exchange of ideas. Faculty members at all universities enjoy academic freedom, a scholar's freedom to teach, conduct research, and express ideas without risk of official interference or professional disadvantage. This is at the core of the academic system in Canada and around the world. Faculty members bring in a variety of approaches to course content. What they do with that content is show students various ways of examining and thinking about the world and the people and places in it. They in no way tell students what to think. Rather, students are encouraged to critique and challenge course material. As a result, over the course of their degrees, students will be exposed to many viewpoints and ideas, all of which they are free to interrogate. Now, based on the actual things that we have gone over so far in the class, it is pretty obvious that students are being taught one point of view in direct slander of conservatives or the far right. This statement also completely dismisses the areas that are essentially promoting violence.
I think that the government is working a little too hard at hiding false information on media outlets such as Rebel News and on social media, instead of attacking the actual false information that is being taught in our schools to our children. That is where they need to be mostly concerned. School, not independent media. This is why now more than ever, parents and people need to protect their children. Classrooms are being filled with material that is straying people further and further away from loving people with different opinions, loving people who think differently than you. I mean, isn't that what we were all taught when we were growing up? And now kids are being taught to hate. They're being taught to be confrontive with people they disagree with. And that's wrong. That's going to raise a generation that, like in Canada, you walk on the street and you smile at your other person, but instead you're going to be met with a frown if you're wearing a Canadian maple leaf, or maybe even a punch to the face. How is this promoting a country in which we can thrive in and embrace our diversity and love one another? It isn't. This is not providing for that at all. How are we supposed to be strong as a country when the kids in schools are being taught to physically confront each other? This isn't promoting that loving country we all, thought Canada to be. A country where you walk by somebody on the sidewalk and you smile at them. But no, now if they're wearing a Canadian flag, you gotta physically confront them because it's a symbol of fascism. It makes them a Nazi, and you must get rid of them. They must be eradicated. They're a threat. The craziest thing to me is that students are being taught to hate the things that our soldiers died for, that our soldiers laid their lives for. They're being taught to hate those things. I just really hope that students can become aware of the information which to absorb and what not to absorb, what to reject and what to accept. And I really hope that schools can become a place of learning and not a place of raising a woke army. That's all from me today. Stay strong and stay free. And if you would like to stay updated with the Trucker Commission in Ottawa, visit truckercommission.com.